Hey everybody, and welcome back. Right, well, it's Monday, it's sunny, it's going to be about 80 again. So we're going to press on with various bits and pieces this week. I don't know how much I'll get done today. I'm still a little weary from yesterday. Yesterday was the trial that I went to, which was hot and didn't enjoy it at all. I think I mentioned that it was sort of a special commemorative trial almost, because the chap that put it on, he's had trials on his land for 50 years. This was the 50th year sort of thing. And he's known for putting on hard trials. He has a feeling that sort of trials are real 100% competitions. Anyway, there was like 2 sections that I wouldn't even attempt, and it was just no fun. So I DNF'd. I did not quite 3 loops out of the 4 loops, and then I actually crashed. And I thought, sod this, you know, I'm 70, it's hot, I'm thirsty, I'm bruised, I don't need this. So as I ride trials for enjoyment and I wasn't enjoying it, I just packed up and came home. So bit of a defeatist attitude maybe, but what the hell. Anyway, let's press on with what we're going to do. As was mentioned, starting to look like a bike. You'll see I got the front mudguard. I picked that up yesterday. I got my little clips to go in here. I had one viewer mention that I'd forgotten to put the gaiters on, but don't forget, I get this a lot actually over the years, that people say, oh, you forgot so and so, you didn't do this. You know, with a dry build, I don't need to put the gaiters on. As it happened, they weren't here, but you know, things like that. So anyway, a lot has happened. As I say, I've got that. I've got these. We've got a back wheel, all done. And what arrived, I think, Friday afternoon. They should be in picture, I think. If not, I'll look them up. So, I think the first thing we're going to do, just because I'm intrigued by it, is we're going to get this ready. Now, just with the last one, which I did for the B25, this is, of course, too big to get in my oven. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut it in 2 and put it in 2 halves. So we'll put it in the oven, heat it up and get the liners out, and then we'll look at things. Now, one thing, I sort of alluded to it in the last, these gudgeon pins, 17mm. The ones in the Triumph are 17.4mm. Now that's basically, I think it's 18 thou. So I was thinking to myself, wow, press the bushes out the conrods, the small end eye, make up new bushes, put them in, ream them. How about if I just reamed the piston to take the Triumph ones? I talked it over with a friend, and the only thing to worry about is whether reaming it would make the groove for the clip there too small, and of course the last thing you want is one of them to come out and a pin to move and score the barrel and maybe lock the engine up, who knows. So I suppose, I still think it'd work, but just to be on the safe side, we're going to make some new bushes. So I think what we'll do is we'll saw this in half. I had a comment about bringing the sole guides down so that the blade didn't twist. You've got to remember, people, that sometimes when you're filming, you've got to make things visible. So from where I could film you there, if I'd have had the guide down, you wouldn't have seen me do the sewing. So I put up with a little bit of difficulty to get that done. So once more, I am waffling. So we're going to cut this in 2, and then we'll just take a pair of these out to look at them. So while that's all heating up, we'll put the back wheel in and a couple of little things like that. Oh, I had a comment about the rear suspension units being upside down. No, this is the way they're made to go. So let's get on. Alright, here we are again. Do this at the side a little bit because I'll show you why in a minute. I went at a slight angle there so that I didn't have to saw all the way through that. I just went to the side of it. Makes me feel like Alan Millar. Maybe I should just glue these together and make something spectacular. Alright, let's go and put them in the oven. Right, that half of the cylinder block is heating up. Let's see about putting this back wheel in. Of course we have spaces to make up for this, but at the moment we don't know quite where they're going to be. And we also of course have to put a couple of drill a couple of holes and put like about 5mm, 6mm Allen bolt in there for the chain adjuster. Actually, I've got a feeling that should probably go on the other way around, but it's alright for now. Put that in there like that. That one on the other side, the right way around. Okay, let me get that fastened in. Now I'll put the oil tank and the silencer on, and we've still got our clearances. So, you know, I did have that other piece of tyre on and I measured it and everything, so I was expecting it to be alright. But that's always nice to get that confirmed. Okay. Those cylinders should be just about hot by now. Right then, let's see what we've got. Oh! There's one. And there's the other. That's how they're supposed to come up. So we'll let them cool down and then we'll have a little look at them. Take some measurements. So there they are, cleaned up. 2 pistons and 2 liners. So what we need to know from these is actually the OD of the liner, because that is going to be the ID of the bore in the aluminium cylinders when I get them. So it's just on, what's this, 3 inches. So I'll measure that exactly in a few places and we'll make a note of that, and then we're ready when we get the alloy cylinders to bore them and fit these in. And of course we'll actually bore them a little bit smaller than that. But what I'm going to do actually to check is measure, hang on a second. the ID in here. Alright, so I'll make those measurements and we'll take it from there. Right, well, I've measured the inside of these. They vary by a thou or two, but it's basically what, 2 inches 9.95. Okay, so these are 2 inches 9, 25, 50, 9.96, so there's only a thou difference. It's a bit difficult trying to do this and to film it. Yeah, 9.96 for both of those. $9.96. $9.96. So as I say, there was actually a little variation in this, so I'll take a lot more measurements in here, but they seem to be 2 inches 9.96, and this is a couple of thou smaller. I mean, you saw how easily it came out, and don't forget they have a recess here, so that lip is going to go in the recess and then the head's going to hold them on, so they're not actually going to go anywhere. So that's that for them. They can just be put to one side now until we get some cylinders. I'm going to do the front mudguard next, just to get this front end finished off. Now, as you can see, there are 4 little lugs with holes, and they're very small holes, so I've got a feeling there was a mudguard that was maybe riveted on there, or however it was put on. So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to mount it 2 1/4 inch ones in the middle, about there. So you'll see I've marked that, and I marked that. That's where I'm going to put the hole here. Now, I don't know if that's for a I mentioned that hole before, and maybe I'm misunderstanding what one comment was, that it was for a cable. I mean, obviously you couldn't put a cable through there because it'd be up against the wheel, but it might be for mounting a cable mount on, so who knows. Anyway, what we're going to do is we are going to fit this. Now you see I can mark the mudguard there and there, take that marking across the top, and then I'll put a centre line on and I'll drill it. Then we'll put it on here, mark the metal bracket. Now I'll take the metal bracket off, drill that, and then we can go from there. So all I've got to do is set this up so it's straight. Let me pull you back here actually, because I've got to decide that. I think is about where I want it. Hang on, let me go and measure on mine, see how far ahead of the forks the mudguard is. Right, on my beezer it's 11 inches. So I'll put a little mark there. I think that'll be good. Okay. So now I want, oops, a mark there. And a mark there. Now we'll mark the mudguard. Right, well, just looked at that last bit of video, you got a good view of my hat, didn't you? So what I've done is put a bit of tape on. I've used that to mark up from the 2 marks there, and that is the halfway mark for the height. So that's where we're going to drill our holes, our 1/4 inch holes in the mudguard. So let me do that. Right, well, got a couple of holes drilled in there. I made a couple of marks to get myself right on this mounting. Now what we need is to make sure it's straight. I'll be perfectly honest with you, I virtually never get these straight. Particularly back mudguards, they always seem to be out just a little bit. I don't know why I can't do it, but there it is. I think that is about as good as I'm going to get it. Okay, so let's make there we go. Near enough on the couple of little marks. Well, that one's actually exactly on the mark I made. That one's near enough there as well. So I'm going to take this off to drill these holes, and then I'll put the bolts through from underneath. I'm thinking I might actually weld them on underneath so the mudguard just goes on and the 2 nuts go on, but for the moment I'll just bolt them. So let me go and drill this. Right, well, there's that. There's a couple of little acorn nuts on. Da-da-da. 1, 2. Let me come around that side. 3 and 4. Yes, I think it's on straight. Yep, that looks fine. Alright, I'll tighten all that up, and then the next thing we're going to do is the saddle. Actually, it's lunchtime, so I'll just give you a quick look at how it's shaping up with the wheels and the mudguards in. Doesn't look too bad. Alright, we'll get on shortly. Right then, so let's look at this saddle. Now you'll have seen me make some of these in the past. The sort of final way of building these I came up with, what I found was the easiest, is it's sort of 3 pieces. The bottom part is made out of aluminium sheet, and that is the piece that actually attaches to the frame. So by whatever means you do it, on the other couple of trials bikes, this comes down lower here, and of course I have tubes there, so it bolts on each side there. So this one, you've seen how we're going to fasten it. So that's the first part. The second part you can make out of, I used to make them out of those cutting boards, which I think were nylon, but you don't see very thick ones now. But this is HDPE, and this is soft enough that you can staple into it, but it's hard enough that you can cut a thread in it. So the next thing we do is we make a copy of this out of this. This will get drilled, and this on the bottom will have matching holes which are tapped, so this can bolt to this. Then on top of that is going to be our foam material, and this I found to be really good. It's those garden type kneeling pads. It's a really dense foam. It's great stuff. It's easy to cut. So what we'll do, you see, is, as I say, we'll drill probably 3 holes in that, 3 matching holes in this which will be threaded, and then we'll cut this to shape. We upholster this, stapling it to the bottom, and then that will get bolted onto that, and that will get bolted onto the bike. So first thing we'll do is we'll mark out this. Now I want to try and get it to follow this curve a little bit, which might be successful, might not be, but rather than have it sort of sticking up with a gap, I'm trying to get the whole thing to just follow that a little bit so it fits in neatly. So let me just start to scribe this onto the HDPE. So here's the shape marked on there. This inner line is the actual shape of the seat, but I'm cut it wide because, of course, let's see if you can see, that goes to there, and as I say, I want to have a little bit of an angle on it so it actually comes up here a bit. So don't know how well it will work, but I'm going to cut it that much bigger, and then we'll angle that from there to there. Okay, that's going to be a bit trial and error sort of thing. So let's go and cut it out on the bandsaw. Right, we'll let you watch some more bandsawing. Right, well, you can see how easily that cuts. So it shapes nicely, but as I say, it's hard enough to take a thread. So let me just finish this off. Right, well, let me walk around this side so you can see what's happening. Now, when I actually welded this pin on, I don't know if you remember, I only welded part of the way around because I was always planning to cut the front off to give so that I didn't end up with a big hole here. Right, so that's on there. I milled out, actually, because I had no way of, well, I could have clamped it down, but I actually put a small end mill in the drill because this is soft, and I just by hand milled that out. So that's going to go on there. Now, that is that curve at the bottom. So as you can see, I cut it larger. So now what we're going to do is start cutting that at an angle until that hopefully drops in down there. he says. But we'll have a go. I think what I'll try doing it with is a flat disc and sand it out in a curve. So let's go and try and do that. Well, I'm going to be a bit backwards and forwards here, and I'm not going to keep carrying the camera backwards and forwards. So what I'll do is I'll show you how I'm going to do this, and then I'll keep doing it because I have to keep walking over the bike to try it and try it and try it. And then when we're right, we'll bring you back. Alright, so you've got your earplugs in. Have any of you watched any of these fellas who do wood turning, where they use sort of gnarly pieces of wood that they fill all the holes and stuff in with epoxy, and then when they wood turn them, there's these huge white streamers come off? It's amazing. So I don't know whether you can see that, but I've got to make sure I don't go past that bottom edge. So that, like that. So let me keep doing this and I'll keep trying it, and I'll bring you back when we're about ready to fit it. Right, well, that took some doing, and as you can see, a lot of little bits of stuff. I found that for this HDPE, which stands for high density polyethylene, by the way, the carbide bit works really nice, produces a nice finish and really cuts through it. So I had to cut a little piece out for this, which I'd forgotten about. There, that's on there, right? And there's barely a gap here. It's not absolutely perfect, but now I've got to do exactly the same thing with this. This time we'll use this here as the underneath mark and slope it away. I'm thinking here just a sharp knife will do this. So again, let me go and mark this up and we'll start doing the top part. I actually sharpened up this Stanley knife on an oil stone, and it's cutting nicely now. Thing with this is very much not to sort of force it too much. You've got to let the sharpness of the blade cut it. So it'll probably take you several passes, and often it's easier to do it from the centre than trying, because the edge it pulls in. If we do it from the centre, turn it round. And don't forget to don't do it on something that's going to dull the blade, because you're very much cutting with the tip. All right. A little sort of sawing action. It all depends on the foam. Some foams I find really cut well with like a bread knife with a serrated edge. Others like just a very sharp blade. As I say, see, if you really push too hard, you just tend to tear it. You've got to really use the sharpness of the knife. And sometimes as well, if you've got a big enough pair, like a pair of pinking shears, which are the big scissors you used to use for cutting cloth, dressmakers and what have you. So let me finish cutting this out because it's going to be a bit fiddly, and then we'll go and see about how to get this back part to slope. And there's the foam pad cut. So I've got it cut out at the back. Actually, I think I can just square that off. I needn't bother. I might even round off the end. I don't think it needs to follow that. And we'll see how it is when it's pulled down tight with the vinyl. Yeah, I think I'll just... Also, it's going to be difficult. See, this is it. I've tried this a couple of times before, and it gets really difficult to get the shape of the vinyl, and I've sort of rounded corners off. So I think I'll do that at the front. It just needs to be a nose there. So let me do that. I'll round that off just to make that easier, and then we'll see about cutting some pieces of vinyl. I'm going to do the base mounting first. So I've drilled 3 holes, and they're actually the tap-in drill size, just so I can mark these right. In fact, I'll even use them as a guide. So I'm going to drill the HDPE, then these holes I'll drill out to 1/4. So hang on, where's the drill? There it is. So let's give this the exactly correct start. Right, now I'll cut them, or drill them I should say. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch coarse thread, a 1/4 inch 20, because with it being slightly softer material than metal, I want to get a nice deep thread. I mean, not that there's any actual pressure on these. It's not like they're a hugely structural fastener, but I'll just show you that this stuff threads fine. I've actually just been having a look at, you can see this is the vinyl laid here. I think I'm actually going to have to do, well, I know I'm going to have to do some sewing, because this won't stretch around that shape at the back. Now then, there's a 1/4 inch course, and that see, that's gone in, that's tight, so they do work fine. So let me tap the other 3 and drill the 3 holes. Right, this is just to show you how it works. So there it is, you see, bolted on. That would be upholstered and everything, and then that fits on. So this base bolts to the frame, and as you can see, the padded part is now fastened to that. Okay, let's have a look at the upholstery. So as I say, because of this awkward shape, and I mentioned earlier that a couple of times I've tried to do this, and in the end I've just did, like with my bike, I just made the saddle that shape and forgot trying to get it to go right round. But see, we could get this to stretch up all around there, but when we get to here, it's not going to work. It won't go into there, see. that is going to have to be made as a proper seat cover. So the question is, the one I had made for the Enfield, which was about the same size, was $170 to get an upholstery to make it. So I don't know what to do about that. Let me give it a thought. Right, well, I found another little bit of vinyl, like an offcut. Vinyl's not exactly expensive, and it doesn't ruin anything if it doesn't fit. So I got my heat gun out, and I'm going to see if I can. I'm going to staple it here to give me a good start. Get it up round to there, and then if this stuff does stretch the way I'm reliably informed it does when it's heated, I might just be able to get it up there, because this, don't forget, is going to be in against the mudguard. I mean, if it looks nasty, well then we'll just pop the staples out and do it differently. But let me get this stapled. I won't show you stapling this bit. I'll bring you back when I'm trying to do this part here. Now, this isn't going to work. It's going to have to be tailored around that. When you try to tighten it up, see how it rises up there? That's going to have to be shaped and tailored to go into there. So I'm at least going to have a piece put in the back. I can get away with the rest, I'm pretty sure, just with careful sort of tucking and pulling. But that back piece has got to have a piece put in it. Alright. Well, let me mark this on this side. Cut it out. I've got some more bits here. I can cut a strip and at least see if I can just stitch that piece in. Alright. Little bit of an experiment here. I have used a bit of super glue there. I think I can make that look half decent. We'll try. If not, we'll have to get somebody to do it and just pay the money. Well, I made a mess of the first piece I glued. I glued it too far up. So I'm using this other stuff that I've got, and I've actually sewn this, look. Never make a seamstress, but let's see what is going to happen here. You watch, I haven't made this piece big enough. See what happens if I staple it. Look at that, needs to be another ½ inch. It's moving around. Let me pull and push and warm it and see what happens. Now, the more I tried, the worse it got. I'm going to have to get somebody to do it for me. Maybe make a better form and everything. Anyway, so just to fill up the last few minutes, I did have one or two people over the years asked me about this. I'm going to show you the process I use for polishing up engine cases and forks, etc. Right, well, this is one of those jobs that has the caveat that this is the way I do it, but there are lots of different ways. But generally speaking, they're all messy. So that's why I've got gloves and all the rest of them. So I start off with, this is 240. That'll get rid of any deepish scratches and so on. Then we're going to go to 800, which you'll see gives you a much closer finish, a much smoother finish. Then we're going to polish it. So, turn you off till the compressor stops. Right, I've taken the little triumph thing off. I'll get another one. I can drill the rivets out, or you can just glue it on. I don't know if you can see here, the 240 leaves pretty noticeable scratch marks, but it will take enough metal off to get bad pitting out. Alright, so let me finish it off with the 240. There it is when it's finished with a 240, and you can see all the swirl marks going in different directions. So now we're going to use 800, and once we start to use that, you'll see the swirl marks will disappear and we'll get a much finer finish. Now we've still got swirl marks, but they're not as deep. So we'll be able to take these out with just the polishing. So let me finish with the 800 and then we'll polish it. Now that's what it looks like done with 800. You can see the sort of really bad swirl marks have gone. Now you can keep going with 1000, 1200, whatever. And the more you polish, the more you sand, I should say, the less you need to polish. But I have a big polishing wheel and I start off with a sort of abrasive grade of polish. So I only go down to 800. But if you don't have a polishing wheel and you're going to end up doing this by hand, you'd probably be better off if you went to 1000 or 1200 even with wet and dry. And then you can get it so that it's almost polished and you just need to give it that last buff up. So let's put this piece on the polisher. Right then, we're going to start off with an abrasive polish. There you see how it's coming up already. Yeah, look. So I'll do it with this, and then on the other wheel I'll use a slightly softer polish and get the really high shine on it. But that's basically it. As I say, it's one of several ways to do it. I find it the easiest way to do it. I get a nice finish, so that's it. So that's going to be it for this week. Obviously a trip to the upholsterers, and hopefully some bits will have come. So next week we're going to do the bushes for the small end, we're going to put the tube in the crank and everything and put the new bearings in, so we should be able to build the bottom end of the engine. Alright, so until then, you stay safe and enjoy yourselves.